We get it. After all the frustration, the endless cycles of hoping for a system that actually works, you're ready for something steady. Something that delivers without constant workarounds or headaches. That's why we're excited to introduce the 2025 redesign of the Buzz CRM. Built with you in mind, it's more intuitive, faster, and smarter than ever. Finally, a CRM that sees your worth, streamlines your workflows, and gives you the tools to thrive without needing to prove yourself over and over again. Because you deserve a lifeline after all those outdated platforms. You deserve a system that keeps up with your goals and grows with your success. This isn't just a redesign, it's a revolution. Visit thebuzzcrm.com today. That's thebuzzcrm.com.
Welcome back, my friends. I'm Vivian McPeak, and this is Hempresent. If you have feedback or would like to suggest a guest or topic for Hempresent, email me at hempresent@gmail.com. When Nathan Marsh started his journey into cannabis activism in 1993, after his father lost his life in a drunk driving accident, he was passionate that access to cannabis is a civil right and that society should be able to benefit from its positive impacts on both the mind and body. Living in Denver, Colorado at the time, he committed to doing anything he could to spread the word about the benefits of cannabis and promote legalization and decriminalization. Nathan later moved to Oregon and Washington and was involved in several nonprofits dedicated to cannabis activism. In 2015, when Oregon legalized cannabis, he produced the Oregon Hempfest, one of the first to be licensed by the Seattle Hempfest, a 501c3 federal nonprofit organization, and became the only licensed Hempfest in Oregon. That same year, he started the Oregon Growers Cup, a cannabis competition that has grown to become Oregon's largest and oldest. Today, he also produces cannabis cups in Arizona, Missouri, New York, California, and New Mexico. I invited Nathan here today to tell us about all of that and more. Welcome, Nathan, back to the show.
Hey, how's it going? Good to be back.
Good to have you, man. Let's dive in by having you describe your event, Oregon Hempfest, in its 10th year. In 2025. What do attendees experience and what are the goals of the event?
Yeah, so I think, the goal since 10 years ago really was just to bring the cannabis community together. We all used to have to kind of get together in small groups. And of course, you guys had been doing that with the Seattle Hemp Fest as, the OG event doing that. But, to continue on that theme and just let people come and gather in a group setting and over the love of the plant and the benefits of the plant and just community and almost divisiveness. Um, this year is our 10th year. We've, kind of had our format for years where we had, Sunday, it was kind of early Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This year, we've decided to kind of switch it up and do full days on Saturday and Friday. So the Friday's new. We used to do a full day Sunday, but Sunday seemed like everybody's tired, and we're really focusing on the all day Friday and Saturday this year. And the kind of formula is the same. We have camping. We have an EDM dome that goes both nights. We've got a big, huge blacklight chroma depth kind of art installation that we're doing this year. There's a burlesque show, and then we've got main stage acts on Friday and Saturday. Alcyon Massive, Jubba White, Aaron Nigel Smith, Mr. Vale's math class, a bunch of different artists. So it's gonna be exciting.
Nathan, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in organizing an event like this, especially with changing cannabis laws and public perception?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I think from the beginning, it was really important for us to, provide kind of something for everyone. I think the big challenge is that, the blessing of cannabis is that it really does touch all of us from every walk of life and different ideologies and all kinds of different music taste. So, I think our biggest challenge is we try to provide something for everyone. We have a quiet camp for people that don't want to be at the dome all night and that want to get, enjoy the day's festivities. So I think, we've rose to the challenge and really just, making all ages during the day so that, people can bring their family. Making sure that anybody under 21 is wristbanded. And no, I think, we've got a unique area here in Oregon where it's just kind of the perfect setting for everybody to get together and have a great weekend and camp out with community.
And it's a beautiful setting as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's surrounded by this. It's kind of a little field, a big field, a couple of big fields, but there's just a ancient row of oaks that are right on the creek there, and they kind of provide shade for a lot of the VIP camping spots, and yeah, it's just a beautiful area. They actually the owner had actually found Indian competitive Indian heads um, where they were doing some competition arrowheads or something there. But yeah, some really tiny ones. So he said
Wow,
that it seemed like there had been people gathering there for a long time.
nice, nice. How does Oregon Hempfest aim to balance entertainment with education and advocacy for hemp in the cannabis community?
It's kind of been an ebb and flow, and I think, we could always do better. We've tried to keep people's attention, I think, has been the real struggle. When you've been 10 years legal, it's kind of hard to remind yourself that, there's people that are getting stopped right now as we're talking, and some traffic stop that are facing criminal possession charges for marijuana in some states. So it's a challenge for us to try to get people teamed up that want to do activism with the people that are doing it. And a lot of the activism here in Oregon is formed too. A lot the medical community is kind of very little now, which is I think it's not that there's not medical people using marijuana in Oregon. It's just the way they've gotten access has changed. A lot
Right,
more of it now is through personal grows or different things. So it's kind of an evolving thing. One thing that we do is that on the 420 stage, every day or every day on Friday and Saturday, we'll do a 420 giveaway on the main stage and throw out a bunch of free stuff. And that seems to be the best time that we get to have speakers make an impact because everybody's there captive and
right.
because sometimes it's hard, a big, huge camping area, everybody's kind of doing their own thing sometimes and in different areas. So that's one place where we kind of get them all together. And then that's when we really have an opportunity to kind of talk about what's going on.
Yep, yep. Yeah, we at Seattle Hemp Fest, we had this giant circus tent, the
Symposium.
Hemposium, with
Yeah.
panel discussions with really just like the leading people in medical cannabis, industrial hemp, the
Yeah.
legalization, all the above. And it was always a challenge to fill the seats, because the party was raging outside.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And and so I always felt like there's a component of missed opportunity there.
Yeah.
Um, how would you characterize the state of the Oregon cannabis market, and the multiple state rollouts that you've experienced?
Yeah, so I kind of do sit in a unique vantage point as far as kind of seeing how, interacting with all these different brands and then kind of seeing their course over the last 10 years and even before with medical people. Oregon's interesting. I think I always, when I talk about this, I always kind of go back to the issue of the no non-residence requirement that basically we just let anybody, we didn't have a residency requirement basically. So any company or group or anything could come in from out of state and immediately become a cannabis company in Oregon. And this is drastically different than the way it's been rolled out in other places. Um, and we were one of the earlier states, after Washington, and everybody has been doing it differently, and it really has been almost, we might have 50 states of marijuana, 50 shades of marijuana sales after all this is done. So I think the to get back to the Oregon State, after 10 years of this not really having very many guardrails, it's been very competitive. There's been a lot of big money come in and lose money, and then they do fire sales. And then, all the other smaller companies have to try to compete with the Ross or the, Marshalls of blowout sales. And so it's been rough. I think that people that, we just did a 10-year anniversary for the Growers Cup where we filmed and interviewed a bunch of activists and people who have been in the industry for at least 10 years. And they all were saying the best accomplishment they had was that they were still here. So I think, it's been very, competitive. I think branding and marketing has been a big issue. If you're not good at that, or sales, you're just going to be rolled over by the cannabis brands that are. Um, so yeah, it's been interesting. The other, and we find it harder sometimes to get sponsorships here in Oregon versus other states where it's still brand new and still very locked down as far as how many people and companies can be involved. So there is profit and um, at least being able to pay your employees health insurance and stuff, and just some of the goals that smaller cannabis companies try to achieve. And it's pretty hard in Oregon, at least, to do that.
Yeah, yeah. You know, cannabis legalization has been reasonably successful, and it's been advancing. Sadly, it seems like medical cannabis really took a hit from, commercial legalization a little bit.
Right,
And at least I know here in Washington State, patients actually lost quite a bit in the trade-off as far as the amount of plants and medicine they could possess at one time, etc.
right.
And then there's industrial hemp, which really like could do the most, right? I mean, it's like the most
Sure.
potential. Could literally help us combat climate change and literally like 1,000 things. But it seems like the one that's struggled the most. And I'm just curious, what role does hemp play in today's economy, in your opinion, Oregon's economy, and how do events
Yeah.
like Hempfest contribute to the growth and normalization of industrial hemp? It's a challenge, isn't it?
It really is, and we've watched it, kind of do a big ocean wave. There was a tsunami of farms. I mean, in the beginning, when people really started leaning into the CBD and the CBG
After the
and hemp
Farm Bill, right? After
products,
the Farm
yeah,
Bill made it okay.
it was huge, yeah. And so everybody in Oregon really went hard on it. And then it was kind of, I've watched Oregon farmers do this, but it's almost like everybody jumps in the boat. Hey, this is the new boat. This is the new boat. And then it gets overweight, it starts to sink, and then everybody jumps off to the old boat. And so a lot
Yeah,
of people, did the hemp, then they jump back to cannabis, then now they're kind of maybe dabbling back in a little hemp stuff because there's not a flood of providers. There's so many different influences too that are at play. For example, THCA is a really good example of something that Oregon has not really experienced at all until recently, which I'm not even sure why, but it's really been a big kind of loophole in other states. And Oregon, of course, has just regular weed. They don't have to call it something different or do whatever they're doing. And so, but now there seems to be kind of resurgence of the THCA, which, in a lot of scenarios is
could
using
help
hemp.
revive the hemp industry, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, it's kind of been an up and down and all around, and a lot of
Yeah,
guys here in Oregon were providing other states, I mean, I remember in the beginning there were cigarettes and gas stations, Oregon hemp packed up kind of almost like little Marlboros in Texas, flying off the shelves. And here nobody would buy it because everybody's wanting to smoke real cannabis THC. So, or I guess it's all real, but you know what I mean? They wanted to get the effects. And it's been interesting too, because for us, we I think are just like all the people from the early days. We have been dreaming of this hemp industrial revolution, and I live in a perfect area as an example. We passed probably, I don't know, I mean, $500 million um, infrastructure of because this is the biggest timber sales in the world happens here. Timber uh, is here in Roseburg, Oregon, and it's the timber capital, as they say. And we've got just insanity amounts of infrastructure and machinery that would have to be duplicated to really push the hemp the way it needs to be competitive with trees. So I think you've got an existing very entrenched, kind of like the oil versus the clean energy. You're going to bump against these oil guys for a long time, I think. And so I
yeah,
think it has to be maybe more small batch. We get smaller, there's a lot of stuff like hempcrete that's really amazing. And I guess just keep supporting these people that are doing this and trying to spread the word. Um, and yeah, but as far as like major adoption where it kind of changes our society, it's just I feel like there's a lot of forces that are probably pushing back on that.
yeah. Kind of same old story. I mean, I know that we've been so, like you said, so excited about the potential for hemp to replace dangerous petrochemicals and gypsum cement and do all these wondrous things. And then the kind of
Right.
CBD craze happened, and everybody was growing it to get oil
To
for
get the
CBD, right?
flower.
I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what,
Yeah.
but of
Yeah.
course, like you said, we don't have the processing facilities that we had, like in the 30s and the 40s, when was
Yeah.
industrial hemp was really happening. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned some music. Can you give us a sneak peek into this year's event? Any standout speakers, performers?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned some new additions and stuff, but can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. Alcyon Massive, he's been gosh, he's kind of a Oregon superstar, if you could say that. But yeah, he's definitely a very popular artist here in Oregon. He's our Friday night headliner. And then Jubba White, he's Portland reggae artist. And then Aaron Nigel Smith, Michael Wesley, the Light Code Band. And then we've got some other Portland bands, Mr. Vale's Math Class, which is a very cool jazzy kind of five-piece. The Southern Sun, Widespread Haze, I Shell, and the Circle Delight with the Solution. Henry Hagen Band, my daughter, actually, this is going to be, I think, her third festival where she's performed. And
Nice.
she does ukulele. And Henry Hagen from up in Seattle area and his band, 3 in 1, they're from up in Seattle as well. And then quite a bit of DJs and Dirty Dirty, Shook, Jay Sonic, Jeffrey Smith, DJ Edgeline. And then, yeah, we've got a new kind of interactive art installation too that we're working on that uses blue light and chroma depth and live painting and yeah, kind of the fun nighttime stuff.
Nice, nice. Um, how about like potential resources for sponsorship vending and networking opportunities that
Yeah.
Hempfest offers for Oregon-based startups and small cannabis brands, et cetera? What kind of opportunities are there, and is it too late to get involved?
Yeah, it's not. And as much as I said it's harder for some of the sponsors nowadays, we actually haven't raised our prices in 10 years. So we have very affordable booths where you can get a vendor booth for $250. If you're a craft person, it's 125. So we really try to encourage as many people to be involved. You can go to our website, OregonHempFest.org, and check out the options there. And yeah, we still have some sponsor options available. We distribute flyers and posters across the state. And of course, promote on our website and our Instagram and social media, and then of course signage and stuff at the event. So there's a lot of different opportunities for promotion for your brand.
What kind of community response have you had? I mean, this is your 10th year, right?
Yeah, no,
Um,
we've definitely got a cult following. Word of mouth has been great. So, and that's I think maybe we only charge $20 to attend as well, and that's kind of goes back to the medical, in the beginning in 2015, there was a lot of people that were medical patients that, $20 was even, struggle sometimes. So we've tried to stay true to that, not let the cost barrier, and just even in the essence of you guys even being free, it's like, you know, there's, you want to make sure that there's access for everybody, especially when it comes to getting information on the medical benefits and being able to be part of the community. So.
how about law enforcement? You must have to deal with at least local authorities a little bit and stuff. And what's their
Yeah.
attitude? Has their attitude changed in the last 10 years?
I would say it has. The first year I remember calling the sheriff, who's been the sheriff actually for this whole time, if you can believe that.
Wow.
Um, yeah, it's a long time. I called Sheriff Hanlon and he was, kind of funny. It was just got legalized and I was, obviously not wanting to, wanted to do everything legal and the backdrop for Oregon was Condi. He was ran out of the country by the government
Bill
when he
Conde
did his
from his
Hempfest.
lumber yard,
Hempfest
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I was coming on doing the Hemp Fest in Oregon right after the guy before me had been run out of the country. So I was a little apprehensive about just how it would go. But they actually responded really well. They saw that I was being professional and I was doing a legit event and getting insurance and not letting kids spend the night. And then he also was very blunt in saying, hey, I we have alcohol events that concern us much, much more than an event with just marijuana and no alcohol. And we've never had alcohol at our events, so um, not having a bar there, cuts out a lot of issues. Everybody's great at our events. So, over the years, the only thing we've ever had is somebody looking for a teenage girl that had camped outside of our event because they weren't allowed to do it, and she had camped outside with her boyfriend who was also underage. But that's about the only thing we've had to worry about law enforcement over the years. So,
We had the same experience by eliminating alcohol. It
yeah.
eliminates 90% of the problems,
Yep.
and
Absolutely.
over the years doing all kinds of events, most of the problems that we had were related to alcohol, and
Yep.
so, and you don't want
Yeah.
people mixing and getting back on the road, driving home and stuff.
Agreed.
So there's just a
Agreed.
lot of that.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
do you think there are unique challenges that Oregon hemp and cannabis businesses face compared to other states? I mean, how would you rate the general model of Oregon State as it approaches legalization?
You know, I probably sound like a heretic saying this, but I believe in free weed. I wish that weed didn't cost money at all.
Yeah,
And I know that goes against kind of the business model of everything that we've built. But I say that because I don't know that there's a perfect capitalistic model that works. Oregon went in with this free barriers. Everybody can come in with not a lot of money. I mean, still a lot of money, but not millions. And so I think Oregon is probably in the top percent. I mean, I think as much as the other, I guess, issue, caveat to this is whether or not, your state in Washington, like when I lived up there, my brother still lives up there, it's not really realistic for you guys to throw four plants in your backyard, even if you were allowed to, but you're not, right? So it's here, everybody can grow four, and the climate is really good for it in most of Oregon. Portland, not so much, but majority of Oregon is covered in great cannabis growing climate, and we are allowed to just throw it out and do it. So that in itself has had such a weird impact on the rec market because, if I have pounds of my house that I grew legally and my neighbor has medical conditions, I can just give her ounces, and that happens. So
as it should be,
um,
right?
exactly right. So that kind of goes against this grain of these companies trying to make a brand and a successful living doing what they love, which is, growing and selling cannabis. So it's really hard. I think it's about as diverse as the human species, right? As far as the yings and yangs involved in it and all the angles. And it's just yeah, it's just really interesting. I don't know. That's a tough question, but I definitely
It's
think that it's better than a lot of the rollouts where it's just been, hey, 12 dudes in a hot tub chopped up the pizza.
right, right, right. Yeah, imagine if the wine industry was limited to every state had a completely different model, and and
Right,
and
right.
it was all done differently, different regulations, different freedoms, different
Yeah,
licensing, and you couldn't sell interstate, right?
right.
Um,
Yeah,
it would be a fraction of what it is today,
right.
and
Yeah, and
so
then today, I don't know if you saw the article that came out just literally today that I read about the DEA saying that, organized crime and cartel and Chinese companies have infiltrated and are using the legal cannabis market to do their stuff.
yeah, I
So,
mean, there's
yeah,
some truth to that, but
sure.
there's cigarettes and everything else, right? I mean,
Right, right.
yeah, I mean, there's this kind of strange uncertainty hanging over us now on what's going to happen with cannabis, and
Yep,
I know that
agreed.
there's two states right now, Texas included, that's trying to just completely eliminate hemp
All
THC
of it.
or hemp,
Yeah,
9 and 7 and all that. And there's
yeah.
9 states that are trying to roll back legalization at all. And you wonder,
Wow.
what are the feds going to do? It's kind of a very unpredictable
Hmm.
situation where we kind of felt like we had momentum moving forward. And now,
Right.
I mean, I think nobody knows what the hell's going to happen.
Yeah. We might move back a little bit. Yeah, interesting.
Um,
Yeah.
we got about 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
How can people get involved? You kind of mentioned the website one time. What
Yeah.
opportunities are there for people to help out? What are your final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, OregonHempFest.org. You can also find us on Instagram at Oregon Hempfest. We did have a street team post that you can find in there. If you want to be involved and help spread flyers around your community, we can hook you up with some swag and some free tickets. And there's a cool little opportunity there. And also we have our growers cups. If you're in other states, we're doing the Coachella Valley. The Coachella Legacy Cup is October 18th, and the Missouri Growers Cup, our third year, is going to be August 23rd, and then December 6th is the Oregon Growers Cup. So yeah, just get involved. Reach out to us, find us on Instagram, and yeah, look forward to hanging out with you.
Well, Nathan, it's always good to talk to you, man, and I really
Same,
appreciate
baby.
what you're doing. And as somebody who can speak for Seattle Hemp Fest, we very much love the way you've approached your event, man, with professionalism and attention to detail and safety first. And it's always
Thank you.
about doing everything as socially responsible as possible, because that's the way we should do everything.
Yeah,
So I just want
agreed.
to tip my hat to you, man, and say how
Well,
proud we
thanks.
are. We're just proud of the association in general, and proud to be part of such an awesome culture movement all over the world, really. And it's
Yeah.
always
Well, and I
exciting.
would be lying if I didn't say that you guys started that spark in me, back in Seattle when I was a 20-year-old going to your events. So it's
Right on,
yeah,
man.
it's an honor to try to pass the torch and keep it lit.
Got to keep the fire burning, right?
That's right.
That's how we do it.
Absolutely.
Nathan
Lamplighters.
Marsh at OregonHempFest.org. It's great to talk to you again, bro. Thanks for your work, and
Thanks, man.
thanks for being on the show.
Absolutely.
The Hemp intro music is 7 Mile Beach by Joanne Rand, and the outro music is Take Back the Plant by Stickerbush. See you next time.
Marijuana, THC, sweet sativa, Deacon Queen, Santeria,
We get it. After all the frustration, the endless cycles of hoping for a system that actually works, you're ready for something steady. Something that delivers without constant workarounds or headaches. That's why we're excited to introduce the 2025 redesign of the Buzz CRM. Built with you in mind, it's more intuitive, faster, and smarter than ever. Finally, a CRM that sees your worth, streamlines your workflows, and gives you the tools to thrive without needing to prove yourself over and over again. Because you deserve a lifeline after all those outdated platforms. You deserve a system that keeps up with your goals and grows with your success. This isn't just a redesign, it's a revolution. Visit thebuzzcrm.com today. That's thebuzzcrm.com.